Call to order the Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting for Tuesday, January 27th, 2015. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Schron. Mr. Schron is absent at the moment. Ms. Conwell.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Hairston.
Here.
Ms. Simon.
Here.
Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
And Mr. Brady.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilman Schron's absence. I realized, or rather was informed by one of my colleagues that he did tell us was going to be out of town today. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Mr. Schron's absence is excused. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Under item 4, the silent meditation, I know many of you were surprised to hear about the passing of Jamie Ireland a week ago today. I know several of you knew him. If you didn't, he was a prominent Cleveland philanthropist and an arts advocate, had enormous presence, and his impact stretched across many of Cleveland's most iconic cultural institutions. He made a very significant contribution to our community. I'd like to keep him and his family in mind this evening, and I think there's a bio on people's desks if they haven't had the pleasure of knowing Mr. Ireland. Okay. Any public comment related to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Satinder Puri. Step up to the podium, sir. Three minutes to speak.
Okay.
Good evening, County Executive Budish, Council President, Vice President, and Council members. My name is Satinder Puri. I'm a community activist, a retired structural engineer, and a resident of Cleveland's West Side. The $25 million lakefront and pedestrian bicycle bridge project is an unnecessary project because we already have 2 fully operational multimodal crossings as East 9th Street and West 3rd Street. Public projects should be justified based on needs. A justification would include a traffic study that would show that the 2 existing bridges cannot handle the volume of pedestrians and bicyclists in the area, and thus a new bridge would be needed. In the absence of a justification, departments of transportation are not providing a single penny for the project. I spoke at the November 13, 2014 public meeting and asked what rationale was used to justify a new bridge when we already have 3 existing crossings, of which 2 are operational. So far, I have not received any response. I was present at the January 4 inauguration where our new County Executive Budish said, "We must work to save money and eliminate wasteful duplication both with county government and our 59 local communities." Very well said. Unfortunately, Mr. Budish, despite multiple email requests, has not explained why building a new bridge when we already have 2 existing crossings in a city with 37% poverty rate is consistent with his statement of eliminating wasteful duplication. On January 22nd, I spoke in the public session and requested a written response to questions. Chair Greenspan of the Finance and Budgeting Committee literally passed the buck and said it was not his responsibility to provide a response and that I should be contacting the county executive's office. Really? then whose responsibility is it to provide answers to critical questions on the subject $25 million project? Was anybody listening when I said that I have been unable to get answers despite multiple requests for over 2 months? And citizens are told in your mission statement that the Reformed Council is a link between government agencies and citizens. I'll appreciate a written response to the questions I've listed. When I arrived at 4:30, I was given a letter from Mr. Greenspan. His letter states he has forwarded my questions for further action. Thanks for his interest in the matter. Demonstrations have started and will continue. You can see me outside your building. No to unnecessary bridge. Eliminate county waste. No to business as usual. Stop the runaround. Stop passing the buck. Stop the Jimmy DeMora Bridge. A document is being submitted for the record. I'll appreciate if council members can read the questions before starting deliberation on the subject resolution. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for coming.
Mr. Perry, I will take that for council. Thank you. The next person who's requested to speak is Mr. Thomas Kolaluka. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, council members. First of all, I want to apologize for my informal dress. I was not scheduled to be here, and I dressed for convenience because of the weather, so I apologize. And it's not meant to degrade this body. My name is Tom Kolaluka. I'm the chairman of the Personnel Review Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight and present our concerns about a piece of legislation that you are considering. The Personnel Review Commission objects to proposed ordinance number 2014-0032 because to the extent that the ordinance applies to the Personnel Review Commission, the ordinance is in conflict with the Charter. Section 9.02, paren 4 of the Charter expressly gives the PRC rulemaking authority. Specifically, the Charter states, the Personnel Review Commission shall have responsibility for creation of the rules, policies related to the Personnel Review Commission authority set forth in the Charter. The County Code may not conflict with the Charter inasmuch as this proposed ordinance conflicts with the Charter. The authority is void ab initio. It sets up a conflict between what the Charter was designed to do with the Personnel Review Commission. The Charter specifically gives the Personnel Review Commission the authority to create its own rules and regulations. By submitting the Personnel Review Commission's rules and regulations to another authority or approval, whether it be council or the executive, it diminishes the authority and the integrity of the commission and can prevent the commission from discharging its duties as put forth in the Charter. As you all know, when the new county council, the new government here was created, the Personnel Review Commission was created as a stopgap or as another protection against favoritism from the appointing authority. We are not just an appeal body. We are also a body to make sure that there is pay equity and there is fairness for the county employees. If there is another body who's going to tell us what to do and tell us how to discharge our responsibilities, that authority under the Charter becomes meaningless, and we cannot discharge our obligations as designed in the Charter. I firmly believe that the ordinance was not designed to restrict the Personnel Review Commission, but as worded, I believe it does. And I ask you to reconsider how it is worded or to amend it so it does not apply to the Personnel Review Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move now to the item, the approval of the minutes, the January 13th Committee of the Whole meeting on page 15 and the January 13th regular meeting on page 17. If you could review that and if I could have a motion. Moved by Councilman. That was moved by, moved by Councilman Harrison, second by Councilman Conwell. All right, have it been moved and seconded? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. There are no announcements by the council president. Do we have a message from the county executive this evening?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to begin by congratulating Sheriff Bova on receiving the Cuyahoga County Police Chiefs Association 2014 Person of the Year Award. The 2014 Person of the Year is presented annually to outstanding supporters and law enforcement officers by the Cuyahoga County Police Chiefs Association for dedication, specific acts of service, leadership or career accomplishments, and their commitment to serving the community. Sheriff Bova's dedication to law enforcement is rooted in generations of family law enforcement, whereas he's a third-generation police officer with 30 years in law enforcement. Once again, I'd like to congratulate Sheriff Bova, and we thank him for his continued efforts to make Cuyahoga County a better and safer place. Last week, the prosecutor's office and juvenile court announced a collaborative effort to ensure all juveniles have an equal opportunity for their cases to be evaluated by the courts, leading to a recommendation on whether the juvenile will move forward with a diversion program or charges to be filed. And tomorrow, over at the Global Center for Health Innovation, the HIMSS Innovation Center will host the IHE North American Connect-a-thon Conference. The Global Center for Health Innovation will be on display for over 500 participants from across the world during this conference. This conference is another great opportunity for our region to showcase our strong ties with the healthcare industry globally. I look forward to participate, and I invite all of you to also stop by and participate. Finally, I was pleased yesterday to join Adams Board CEO Bill Denahan, Metro Health CEO Dr. Akram Boutros, and Project Dawn Medical Director Dr. Joan Papp to emphasize the county's continuing commitment to fight the heroin crisis. The Adams Board presented a $100,000 grant to Project Dawn for additional naloxone kits. I appreciate the ongoing help of the council in our efforts to fight the heroin epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, legislation introduced by council. Consideration of a resolution of council for first reading adoption under suspension of rules. Could I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules. Second.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilman Gallagher and seconded by Councilperson Germana. All those in favor of suspending the rules say aye. Aye. All those opposed, rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2015-0016, a resolution amending Rules 12G and 12H of the Rules of Cuyahoga County Council and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I'd like to move that we adopt this resolution. Seconded by Councilman Miller. This is a motion to create a new standing committee in the council called the Community Development Committee. Will be chaired by Councilman Harrison. It's initially part of its initial responsibilities will be to oversee the $50 million demolition program. And during our discussion about that issue, members had wanted some way to have some oversight, and and this is one of the ways that we intend to do that. Along the way, as we discuss it, there seem to be several other issues that seem to be appropriate for a committee like this and allow us to take on some issues that we really hadn't taken on in the Economic Development Committee. I see this as at least a bit of an experiment for the next 2 years, but I'm already encouraged that there's a good reason to have this committee. Any discussion about the Community Development Committee? Hearing none. All those in favor? I move to. I already made the motion, correct?
Yes,
all those
sir.
in favor. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. 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 All those opposed. All right. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0017, a resolution setting the regular days, meeting times, and locations for council standing committees for a 2-year term and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
And I move to approve this resolution. Been seconded by Councilwoman Conwell. This simply sets the days and the locations for the council standing committees. The difference being that when federal holidays fall on Monday, we'll now move council meetings that are on Monday to Thursday, of course, at the discretion of the chair. All those in favor? Yes, I'm sorry, Councilman Germano.
Mr. Chairman, late last week at an SBE grievance committee, I found that Public Works may be, the time for Public Works may be in conflict with Lenora Lockett to be able to appear. So I consulted with members of council that are on the committee for Public Works to see if we could move it up an hour so that, because I think it's important for her to be there when we have major purchases. But I haven't had a chance to talk to Bonnie Tewan to see if there is any problem with moving Public Works up to 10 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock on, it's okay? So.
Well, this is the first I've heard of this, Councilman. I certainly don't have an objection to it. But could we move this resolution forward and resolve this issue?
I'd just like to amend Public Works meeting to be 10 o'clock.
All right, is there a second to Mr. Germana's amendment?
Second.
Movement being made by Councilman Germana and seconded by Councilwoman Conwell. I would prefer to hear about these things before they're on the floor of the council, if possible.
Oh, I apologize. I wanted to clear this with all the council members before to make sure, you know, you make one action
Sure.
causes other reactions, but it ended up that it's working out for
All right, okay, Councilman. Any questions?
Not a question, just a comment. I sit on that committee, so I will get with the president and committee members for education, because if we're moving Public Works, then I want to move our education meeting time. So that will come. I'm going to do it, not now, but because if we affect one, we affect another. And
All
it's
right.
a positive.
We'll work this out.
I'll
That's
go with
why we need to discuss them before the council meeting. Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Mr. Chair, you have an
Yes.
amendment on the floor that needs to be voted on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Germana's amendment, seconded by Councilwoman Conwell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The amendment is approved. All those in favor of the amended resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The amended motion resolution is adopted. Committee report and consideration of a resolution of council for second reading. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Resolution number 2015-0003, a resolution adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
All right. I'll second it.
This
Moved by Councilwoman
item is
Conwell.
for second reading only.
I think we're going to move this to the February 10th meeting, council meeting for third reading. All right.
And Jane, I don't know who was here to speak to that, Lisa. I'm not sure on the second reading. Was anybody from committee? I could have swore it was second reading suspension. I thought it was something, since it had to do with the communication specialist position, it needed to be moved sooner.
Both of the non-bargaining classification plans were reported back to me by staff to put them as second reading.
Okay. That's fine.
All right, thank you. Consideration of an ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2015-0003, an ordinance amending Title VII of the Cuyahoga County Code to include community development as an allowable use for the Casino Revenue Fund and to establish the County Community Development Supplemental Grant Fund Program and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective. Additionally, Councilwoman Simon would like to be a sponsor to this legislation.
All right, and this legislation will be the first legislation referred to the new committee, Community Development.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
can you add my name, please?
add Councilman Germana's name. council report and consideration of an ordinance of council for second reading adoption under suspension of rules. Could we get a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Moves to suspend the rules. Mr. Germanis seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye. Opposed? I thought you were going to read the,
I'm sorry,
Resolution.
that would be next, Mr. Chair.
okay.
Ordinance number 2015-0001, an ordinance amending Chapter 114 of the Cuyahoga County Code to ensure transparency and equity across county appointees and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
All right. Councilman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance was discussed in committee, and fundamentally it sets forward through Councilmember Conwell's committee protocol to which submissions for various appointments and confirmations accompany the requisite information. So, for example, a sheriff must have certain credentials, a fiscal officer, law director, and so forth, that all that information is provided at the same time. That's the fundamental basis for this ordinance.
The ordinance then? I am. All right. And Councilman Miller seconds Mr. Greenspan's ordinance. Any discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, I had a question.
Yes.
So this is going to require the opposing body to indicate all information, including salaries and things? Is this?
To the extent that the position is a salaried position. So as we know, appointments to many boards, agencies, and commissions do not have compensation. To the extent that they do, yes, that information will be required. So an appointment to a director position, as an example, that information will be disclosed at the time of the appointment.
If this is a charter appointment, we know that the appointment has to be made. It's just a question of qualified candidate or what council deems qualified. How would the salary of that particular appointee be relevant to analyzing the qualification of that candidate?
It very well may and has no relevancy to the qualifications of the candidate. It's merely a disclosure of already available public information at the time of the appointment. The compensation for all of us in the county is public information. This just requires the disclosure to be made at the time of the appointment.
Might there be an incident where the salary itself isn't nailed down yet, or it's a range and it's not, and we're under a time frame to get the candidate confirmed or not confirmed, and there's not, the salary might not be actually listed? Can you imagine a circumstance like that?
Well, I would argue at the time that it comes before this body for approval that all of those issues have been worked out as upon approval and the executive signature, that confirmation is confirmed, that appointment is confirmed. So the expectation of including that specific provision or any of the provisions would be that that information has been negotiated and is ready for disclosure. We are ultimately the last word within the hiring or confirming process.
Yeah, I just don't know. Personally, I'm not sure that the charter envisioned us having that as a criteria upon which to judge a candidate. So I'm going to vote no on the change, because that really shouldn't be in the consideration of council when identifying whether a candidate is qualified, what the compensation package might be. And perhaps there might be an incident where it's not even nailed down yet. You're right, it's probable that it would be, but I'm not sure when we're analyzing qualification that the salary should become something that the council should be considering.
Well, and I can respect that. That amendment's already been adopted through the committee process, so your vote would be no on the legislation itself. However, I would argue if that's the trend of thought, that a number of these requested items very well are not applicable to the determining of the qualifications of the candidate, such as the candidate's direct contact information, phone number, email address, or a cumulative list of individuals who have applied for the position are irrelevant to the individual applying for the position. So would it be your intent to strike those provisions as well? If so, the opportunity was so afforded?
I understand the history, legislative history of why those items are in there, because in the past we might not have had all the information up front that we needed. In terms of addresses, I still think that's over the top. But I think when we keep adding things in here, it micromanages the executive's ability to get people into positions. It's difficult enough finding qualified candidates coming in from the private sector into public service. And I think when we start to really start picking at things that really don't go to the qualification, I think we're undermining the ability of the executive and even this body to have the most qualified candidates. And it would be my intent to look at those as well, because I think it's a little bit getting into, I know the law department had to get into some of the privacy issues when we asked for addresses and such. So I think this body really needs to look at what the role is and how do we want to attract qualified people to work for this county. And when we start to legislate this, I think it undermines that on another level. So
sure, no, and I understand that, and obviously the candidate must also understand that whether it's disclosed at the time of the confirmation or after employment, that information is public information. And so whether it's disclosed at the state treasurer's website or through a public records request, that information will be readily available.
Yes, it will. But if somebody's not confirmed yet, you're getting their private information out into the public sector, and that might be not necessary and potentially harmful to the candidate. So I'd like this council just to consider why we need compensation as part of our analysis of a qualified candidate and potentially hurting the ability of the county to attract really top-notch candidates from the private sector.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Germana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to let Councilwoman Simon know that, you know, your thinking is in keeping what we talked in committee, because there was this concern about this very thing. And in committee, it was discussed that this is it's going to be a public record. And if someone's going to work for a public body, there's transparency. And so we agreed with that line of thinking. But this is not saying that we're going to negotiate what the salary is going to be. We're just disclosing it. So really, this is transparency, and it's a public record.
Let me say I kind of saw this one coming. I'm going to support this legislation, but I think the councilman should understand that I know it was discussed in committee. Why this would raise some eyebrows. Why some members might not feel completely comfortable with the way this legislation is written. Are there any other comments about this particular resolution?
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman.
Ms. Simon, I debated your points rigorously, and I actually call it kind of belt and suspenders, kind of, do we really need this? It's public record, so I acquiesce to the rest of the committee members. I don't think it's harmful because it is public record, but I agree with you. We need to be very careful as we move forward in not nudging what we are into other areas of the administration.
So your point's made, and we'll keep an eye on this. This motion been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
With the opposition of Councilwoman Simon. Resolution is adopted. Council report and consideration of a resolution of council for second reading. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm off page. Legislation introduced by the executive. Consideration of resolutions for first reading adoption or suspension of the rules.
President, I move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion has been made to suspend the rules and seconded by Councilman Germana. All those in favor of suspending the rules say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2015-0018, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2015 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Councilman Gallagher and seconded by Councilman Miller. Is that correct?
Greenspan Miller.
Okay. Councilman Greenspan, do you?
Briefly, at our last meeting, I informed council that I would be and ask for questions to be submitted through Trevor McAleer. We would then forward them to the Director of Budget Management. Before you is a list of questions that were submitted to the Office of Budget Management and their responses. We're still waiting for a few responses, although the responses that we're waiting for were not material to those specific items. The last piece of information that will be included, which is new, is a summary of the use of reserves, both temporary and permanent, and that submission will be included with this letter, this memorandum, on a biweekly basis. With that, I see no reason not to support this ordinance, or this resolution.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0019, a resolution approving a collective bargaining agreement between Cuyahoga County and American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, Ohio Council 8 and Local 2927, representing approximately 30 employees in various classifications and inmate services at the Sheriff's Department for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2017, directing that funds necessary to implement the collective bargaining agreement be budgeted and appropriated, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This was discussed in executive session. We have a motion.
I did.
Councilman Miller moves and Councilman Germana seconds. The Law Department has requests that the council do a roll call vote, so we will have one.
Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Hairston.
Yes.
Ms. Simon.
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Germana.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
And Mr. Brady.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0020, resolution approving a proposed settlement in the matter of Patricia A. Allen, administrator of the estate of Albert W. Fabian, Jr. versus Cuyahoga County et al., United States District Court, Northern District of Ohio, case number 12-CV-1659, authorizing the Director of Law and or his designee to execute the settlement and any related documentation, authorizing the appropriation of funds for payment of settlement amounts set forth herein, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I'll move to adopt. Second. Moved by me, seconded by Councilman Germana. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Resolution is adopted. This was also discussed in executive session at 4:30. Consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution number 2015-0021, a resolution confirming the county executive's appointment of Nyla K. Bird upon her taking the oath of office as clerk of courts of Cuyahoga County, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
We are going to send this to the committee of the whole. The confirmation hearing, which will be our first, is scheduling it for February the 10th at 2:30 p.m.
Resolution number 2015-0022, a resolution confirming the county executive's appointment of Edward H. Kraus upon his taking the oath of office as Cuyahoga County Director of Regional Collaboration and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
And we'll also be sending this to the Committee of the Whole. I believe we'll be conducting this confirmation hearing on the 24th, but it's not completely determined.
Resolution number 2015-0023, a resolution making an award on requisition number 32046 to Johnson Controls Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1,103,352 for preventative maintenance services for Medicis and heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems at the Justice Center complex, including jails 1 and 2 and the Juvenile Justice Center, for the period April 1, 2015 through March 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
So go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2015-0024, resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 1100-721 with American Bridge Company for rehabilitation of Columbus Road Lift Bridge over the Cuyahoga River in the city of Cleveland for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $722,620.44, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, authorizing the county engineer on behalf of the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $5 license tax funds in the amount of $72,262.04 to fund said amendment, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2015-0025, a resolution making an award on requisition number 32019 to Shermer Construction in the amount not to exceed $899,902 for design build engineering services for replacement of various culverts in various municipalities, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, authorizing the county engineer on behalf of the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $7.50 license tax funds in said amount to fund said contract, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the projects and in the communities as printed on the agenda, items 5, 1, and 2.
Go to Public Works. Committee report and consideration of a resolution for second reading. We're going to move this to the February 10th meeting of the council agenda for third reading.
Reading that item into the record, resolution number 2014-0299, a resolution adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
All right. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading, adoption, or suspension of rules. I have a motion.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules. Second.
Gallagher and Councilman Germana move to suspend the rules. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. Rules are suspended.
Resolution number 2014-0253, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of Cuyahoga County Sales Tax Revenue Bonds Series 2014 Lakefront Pedestrian Bridge in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $10 million for the purpose of acquiring an interest in and paying or reimbursing a portion of the cost of constructing and maintaining a pedestrian bicycle bridge to be located between the northeast corner of Mall C and the downtown lakefront in the vicinity of the Great Lakes Science Center and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, and spanning railroad tracks owned by Northern, Southern, CSX, and Amtrak, Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority waterfront line tracks, city-owned property, Amtrak parking lot, Memorial Shoreway, State Route 2, including the main line and access ramps, and Erie Side Avenue, and for the purpose of paying capitalized interest on the bonds and paying the costs of issuance in connection therewith, authorizing the preparation and use of a preliminary official statement, authorizing the preparation, execution, and use of an official statement, approving and authorizing the execution of a trust indenture and a continuing disclosure agreement, authorizing other actions related to the issuance of the bonds, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
I understand we have a proposed substitute.
Yes, Mr. President, I offer a proposed substitute to Resolution 2014-0253. The proposed substitute is has been provided to each member. The section to which substitute pertains is Section 4, and if my colleagues will remember in the resolution number, it's 2014. The bonds at that point, the assumption was they would be issued in 2014. The legislation reflects that. However, obviously we are not in 2014, and this proposed substitute changes the language to provide more flexibility, to remove 2014, and language provided by the law department provides such flexibility to issue the bonds at such date. That's all this amendment does, is merely change the date of the issuance because the current legislation has an outdated date.
Does the law department have anything to add to this?
No, precisely. That's exactly the case. Is when these bonds are issued, they get a title, they get a name, and it's usually, let's say, Series 8, 2014 ABC. So all this does is it gives it the flexibility to, when the bonds are issued, depending on what series they're in, to be called the correct series number. That's all this is. That's all this amendment is doing.
All right. Are you moving the substitute, Councilman?
Yes. Move the substitute be adopted.
Second. I'll second it. Councilman Greenspan and Councilman Brady move to substitute the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Are you in opposition? Councilman Harrison is in opposition. Now we need a motion to adopt the suspended resolution. I mean, the proposed substitute resolution. I will move to adopt the substitute proposal. Councilman Greenspan seconds it. This is for purposes of discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those, we have Mr. Harrison is again in opposition. Do we have discussion? Well, on the substituted bill, on the content.
I know this was vigorously discussed in Finance Committee. I wasn't there, but I'm just troubled by. I still don't know who. Are we going to own this bridge? I'm assuming we are. We'll be responsible for maintenance and repairs going forward. Have the railroad easements and whatever other purchases or expenditures that have to be made to acquire the ability to go over the railroads all been nailed down? Or are we at this point voting on this not knowing those things?
Yeah, and thank you, Ms. Simon. And in section 14 on page 10 of the substitute, which is now the moving legislation, those items are addressed in the sense that, and I share the same concern over ownership maintenance. Those items today have not been identified, have not been nailed down. However, what this resolution, what this ordinance now says, and we have to understand the history. So, City of Cleveland has already agreed to issue the bonds to support their portion of the $10 million. To provide us with two levels of assurance. Number one, what's in here in item 14 basically says that the county will begin its process of funding after Cleveland effectively deposits its money into our bank account with our fiscal office, and the fiscal officer certifies that Cleveland's portion has been deposited into our account. The second component regarding ownership, maintenance, and so forth has agreed, and is a concern of mine, has not been identified as of today. But this is an and provision. So between today, let's assume this passes or it passed, and a future time when Cleveland deposits the money in the bank, the county and the city are to enter into negotiations to come up with a cooperative agreement over those issues. It's an and. Cleveland must deposit $10 million, and we must be satisfied with the ownership, maintenance, and so forth of the bridge. If either one of those two do not take place, then the project does not proceed. So we have doubly protected the county insofar as we will begin the bond or put up our money after Cleveland deposits its money, and only if we are satisfied with the ownership, maintenance, and capital improvements provisions of an agreement. So we've protected ourselves two ways. And although, yes, I agree today, we do not have that agreement, this provides a good faith effort that we will work with the city to come up with the plan that's mutually beneficial to both of us. If we do not come up with a plan, the bridge does not proceed.
So the reason why we have the resolution now without all these details being ironed out is because of the tight time frame to begin the issuance of bonds. So hopefully this will be finished by 2016.
Correct.
convention.
And we had testimony committee from Director Teowen that the expectation is, I saw her here, the direct expectation is that construction will begin within the next 90 days, correct?
Hold on.
Or so. So the expectation is this will help the process move along. But if, like I said, if we're not comfortable, if things don't happen, we're not bound based on this resolution to move forward with the bridge. We have to be satisfied in two ways.
As you remember, last December, we held back on including this. We went out to borrow, and now the council has moved last week to borrow about $100 million, with $10 million being set aside for the bridge. I think that the councilman has done a good job. Very many members of the council had the very same concerns. I think it's important that now that the city council has taken a step forward, that we take a step forward too. So we're trying to carefully orchestrate our agreement.
Mr. Chairman, that's fine. I mean, if this is the issuance of bonds, I can't imagine we're going to be able to come in at any point and say stop. Stop this. It's kind of like the hotel when the train's gone, but. Can somebody articulate the positive? I mean, just quickly, I know this, but we had a gentleman speak at the open session who's been writing us emails about the positive of this. I heard Mr. Jones, Councilman Jones, saying it's connectivity and that we need a safe route to the lakefront. But really, who's going to be using this bridge?
Councilman Jones. Councilman Jones has indicated he wants to speak to the issue, so.
Okay. I know the convention people are going to be going there, and that will probably heighten the attendance at the Rock Hall of Fame, and convention people will go there. But who do you envision is going to be connected from Walsey to this lakefront?
Well, let me first say thank you for the comment regarding that you just made. In Public Works, we've always seen on smaller bridges who's the owner, and it's never about owning the asset. It's always about the liability of fixing it. So now we have a $25 million bridge, and I do support Councilman Greenspan's approach to actually nailing that down with a good faith effort. As far as the bridge itself, I certainly do support the bridge. The perspective, and we've heard this from the Greater Cleveland Partnership, from other business holders, representatives in the community, and an opinion I hold as well, is that we're striving to be a convention center town. There's a desire to create a more family-oriented atmosphere in our downtown area. We certainly have had a nightlife. We've had it on the flats. We've had other, but to build on that type of foundation, to build a more family-oriented environment is one that you can truly build on. I draw from my own personal experience of having grown up in Baltimore, Maryland. They are almost a sister city to Cleveland in that we have a strong steel industry history, and we both have lakefronts. But Baltimore's lakefront is fully developed. When tourists come into this town, and it is a tourist town and it's family oriented, when they come in, they have a lot of the same assets that Cleveland has. They have a science center. They have an aquarium. They have restaurants, tourist attractions, but they're all centered around the lakefront. Red brick cobblestone pathways where tourists can simply come into the area, park, see through lines of sight to more than 2 blocks of entertainment and assets. And it has created, again, a family-oriented environment. There are paddle boats on the water. There are clowns and entertainment that you can come in and just sit and enjoy the environment that's been created. Cleveland has a lot of these similar assets, but they're scattered. You know where our science center is, and you know where our aquarium is. These things were built, but we didn't get the same synergy that that city and many other cities around the country have. So when you can't, in all reality and realistically, pick up a building and move it in a way to create that environment, then you have to find other approaches. And that's where connectivity comes in. Yes, you can get to the lakefront by going down 9th Street, making a left at 1 street and going under the bridge and going by the football stadium. And yes, you can do those things. There is access. This isn't duplication. The connectivity allows a tourist at the convention center, and not just the convention center, but visitors to this city, as we, again, strive to be a convention center town. That bridge creates lines of sight, a safe environment, and it adds to that, again, family-oriented opportunity to connect these assets that we have and lay a foundation for additional assets to be built around. So it has more than just giving you access. It creates an environment that this city needs to be what we are striving to be, which is a convention center town with walking and traffic downtown and a more of a family-oriented environment.
Well, I think that's well put. I want to remind the council, I'm sure they do, that the city has been seeking to do this for quite some time, actually, and had hoped to get a federal grant to build a bridge, and there certainly was no opposition to the bridge when it was in the form of a federal grant, but unfortunately the city was not successful in getting the grant. And so, as you're aware, we've been discussing this over a long period of time. It's not coming out of nowhere. And I can understand the issues that this raises in some people's minds. This is not a slam dunk, but we have made commitments. Former executive has made commitments. There is generally a pretty clear understanding that we are going to move forward with this project. But certainly want to entertain any discussion that people want to have. And we are going to have a roll call vote on this, considering the fact that we already know that there probably will be some opposition.
I just want to speak to this in just a little different angle. I think Councilman Jones was pretty eloquent. This, if this was just a bridge to have a bridge and spending $20 million, I would be a no vote. But this is, we've invested upwards $700 million. When you consider the hotel and the convention center that's been built, this is an amenity to a $700 million plus investment that we've already made. If you didn't do this, it would be like having a massive McDonald's without a drive-up window. I probably would be a no vote, except for the fact that we've already invested all this money into the convention business and a convention hotel. And to have a major amenity like this, it's going to be helping the Science Center, the Rock Hall of Fame, and so on. So I think because this is following the other major investments that we've already committed to, I'm a yes vote.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As long as I've lived here, which has only been 7.5 years, I keep hearing the disconnected Cleveland as far as the lakefront and downtown and how we need to move forward to connect those two assets. This is an opportunity, and I agree with this, this is an opportunity to move forward to join that connectivity. Now, we're not just talking about the Rock Hall and the Science Center and the stadium, but let's look at what's going on the other side of the railroad tracks, so to speak, at what's currently being done as far as East Bank of the Flats redevelopment, because we're talking about connecting that to downtown and downtown to it. We're talking about the project that Cleveland has proposed behind the stadium, north of the stadium, to build 800, basically a community with 800 residential units and mixed use as well. Cleveland has plans to enhance the marina and waterfront properties. And if you look at that in the totality, it's not just folks going from Cleveland to the lakefront, but lakefront to Cleveland. And this is an important connectivity tool. I believe if we take a look back at not only its purpose insofar as connecting tourism-related activities or convention center-related activities, but what it means to connect the lakefront to downtown, and you look at the connectivity path that the Group Plan Commission going to Public Square and the renovations that are about to take place there, this is part of a larger picture. This isn't just one single component. And I would argue, and with Mr. Germana, that if we didn't have these other activities occurring north of downtown, north of the convention center, I might not be as supportive as this as possible, as I am. But we have things happening today, and if we want to be able to provide not only with those who visit our community, but those who live here who wish to experience more of greater Cleveland and the downtown area, I would argue that this is an important component to the overall plan and strategy. The East 9th and West 3rd pathways are not conducive to either pedestrian traffic in a mass scale or bicycle traffic because you have to stop vehicular traffic. I would argue it's a hazard, a safety hazard to pedestrians and bicyclists, as much as I would that it causes traffic and congestion problems, which we should at best eliminate where we can. This is an opportunity to do that. I would also argue that in 2013, we voted to support the funding of our $10 million. This further moves that process along with the provisions, as I outlined in Section 14, which protect us in two ways. Cleveland must deposit the money in our account, and we must understand the ownership before we fund. If either of those two things don't happen, we don't move forward. So I just wanted to reiterate and give some color to my perspective of connectivity between downtown and the lakefront, but also the commitment we've made with the protections in here to ensure that our dollars that we're contributing are protected. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know that I'm newly appointed to the Finance and Budget Committee, and I addressed many of the concerns that my colleague Simon has raised here today about the ownership, the capital improvements. I've actually spoken to the administration about those concerns as well, along with yourself, which was my reason for voting no at the last committee meeting. Some of those same concerns still exist today. I was also told that this project had come to the council right when the change of government had occurred. And also it had resurfaced back in 2013, I believe, and again in 2014. And for these type of what I consider important issues not to be addressed during that period of time is a problem for me. And I appreciate Councilman Greenspan's amendment to this. I think it does help us out as we move along, and it provides safeguards. But that isn't enough for me. I think that if this is such an important issue, if this is such an issue and an important project, that those type of things should have been dealt with early on. Aside from all of the other needs across this county, a $25 million bridge is not one of them. I can tell you now, in the city of East Cleveland, we have major issues. The city of Cleveland Heights infrastructure, the issues, and all the other municipalities that I represent can use this $10 million to do other things within those communities. The assets that we have and the access to them have served us well. I believe each and every person have not had, without the bridge currently, issues of accessing those amenities. And in fact, you know, the amenities that we have now without the bridge help get the RNC here. So I don't think building a bridge is a true connection to those assets downtown and would not put us in any other position greater than what we are now. And maybe it is a time for this bridge, but for me, the time is not now for this bridge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Harrison, we appreciate your observations. Councilwoman Simon, you seem poised to.
I just have a follow-up. I mean, I'm on the fence literally about this bridge. I understand that the timing is good because we have Cleveland and we have the synergy going, but I'm not sure that this is going to increase convention traffic. I mean, what was essential to the convention center's success or failure was that hotel. If we didn't have a hotel, we're not going to have conventions. It won't be successful. I don't think that people are going to come here because of this bridge. Convention goers are going to come to Cleveland. There's a hotel, and there's ways to egress and to go to the lakefront. I don't think families are going to park at Mall C to walk to the Rock Hall of Fame or the aquarium. That doesn't make any sense at all. We don't have parking as it is. I don't want to debate. I'm just really scrutinizing what we're saying about this bridge. And when it comes to pass, people are going to park at the Rock Hall. They're going to park at the aquarium because they are disconnected. There's no parking around here anyways. We have a shortage of parking. So that doesn't make any sense either. It's a family going to come down here. They're going to park where they're going to park. It's really for the convention goers to have a safe way to get to the Rock Hall. So that's really what we're talking about. And I want to get to the lakefront too. I totally think we need it, but right now what we have right there at the end is there's not much to see. But I'm going to vote yes. Apparently I already did with our vote.
Well, Councilwoman Simon, I appreciate the difficulty of this issue, but I was going to have a roll call vote, but I was told by the clerk that we have, in fact, already voted. But if outside of Mr. Harrison's opposition, if any councilman would like to change their vote, please do so.
I'm really hesitating, and I'm going to keep this yes vote, but it's a leap for me to make this vote. I mean, our communities really can use this money, and we're investing almost all our money downtown, and
all right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry I took up time, but I think it's
No,
important
don't
enough
be sorry.
to address the pros and cons.
The high-profile issue and somewhat controversial. Sometimes we're here to make controversial decisions. And Councilman Gallagher, you definitely are not a councilwoman.
Thank you. I think this is just so exciting. Have been a lifelong resident of Northeast Ohio and representing an area, Strongsville, where we had a lot of out-of-towners living, a lot of transient corporate types. And you'd get feedback from people. And one of the things that I found pretty exciting is you got different ideas. And I always thought, I asked people what they thought of Northeast Ohio and Cleveland. What's the problem with Cleveland? And the answer was always, not sometimes, but always Clevelanders. They have no thought on what we have here. They don't appreciate it. They just think everything's so negative. We've got the metro parks. We just don't know how wonderful that is. We've had a lake sitting there with no connectivity. I worked at the courthouse for over 25 years. I can't remember a time I left to walk down to the lake to go to eat lunch. There's no easy way down there. I don't care what anyone says. West 3rd's dangerous. East 9th is even more dangerous for pedestrians. This is a direct link for employees at the courthouse, the Justice Center, the federal building, the city of Cleveland, visitors, people on the malls, conventioneers, people in the hotel. It just goes on, and to be able to get those folks quickly, directly, and safely to a waterfront that is starting to boom is absolutely exciting. And I hope as we move forward that Clevelanders wake up to what we have here in Northeastern Ohio. Folks understand what we have here. This is exciting. Does anybody remember Harry Weintraub's down there? Was it West 6th or West 9th Street? I had to go down there when I was in 7th grade to get my first suit. And it was scary. But I looked at the buildings. I'm like, this is just fantastic architecture. Why doesn't somebody do anything with this? Well, we have. Cleveland has. And it's not scary. It's cool. We had a waterfront that was, quite honestly, scary. You know, big ships and iron workers and scary people were down there. But now it's cool and it's just growing and buzzing. And this is just something that's going to get this city and this region kicked off. I'm proud to be part of this. I'm excited to be part of this. I understand the concerns, and they're real. And I like the fact that the concerns are coming from the youngest members of this council who are going to end up leading this council and this county forward. I appreciate that. They're legitimate concerns. But as far as being someone that's approaching 60 years old, I want to get this thing going so I can walk over that bridge and experience the lakefront like we all deserve to, and other peoples do in Buffalo and Chicago and even Detroit. So I'm looking forward to this bridge going up and the iconic nature of it. And I look forward to everybody in Northeastern Ohio waking up to what we have here, and we have an exciting story to tell. And this is part of that story.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Jones.
I was just thinking, I represent a small part of downtown, the poorest ward, arguably the poorest ward in the poorest big city in Cleveland at certain times, first ring suburbs, a wide economic range. And whenever I go to a community meeting, no one really cares about anything other than their own city's issues. So I don't go into Garfield and tell them what I'm doing down in public housing and vice versa. But as an elected official, I have to represent and serve all of the county. And when I think about this project, it's one I support. It may not resonate for some of my residents in certain areas, but 80% of the people who work in downtown don't live in Cleveland. They live in other parts of Cuyahoga County. So when we strengthen our downtown and strengthen it economically, then it benefits the residents who choose to work downtown or live in Westlake or live in Garfield or live somewhere else. So I see a need, a commitment to again, strengthen our downtown area. At the same time, I think my credentials stand by for themselves. I've helped sponsor a $50 million demolition fund, lead sponsor, that helps the residents in my district. So I juggle both hats. I say I don't see serving one as not serving the other. And I felt that pull. We built, when we gave money for the chandeliers and all that, you know, I had to think about it as I voted yes, as we all, many of us did, to put monies for those projects. Again, projects that I supported, but at the same time, I come back into my other parts of my district and make sure that I've done just as visionary work in those areas as well. So for any of my residents listening, I think I just felt I needed to share that.
I appreciate that, Councilman Jones. I know Councilman Harrison is disappointed that Councilman Schron is not here this evening. I would like to echo a little bit of what Councilman Jones said. This council spends most of its time concerning itself with the well-being of constituents of this county in a way that has nothing to do with this particular project. We also worked together and unanimously passed and worked to approve, and were successful in approving an increase in the Health and Human Service levy to help the neediest among us in the county. So we are not one-dimensional in terms of how we approach our jobs here, but it always is a dilemma. And so I do appreciate that, and I respect the differences of opinion. Hearing no other comments, this ordinance is adopted.
Moving on to resolution number 2014-0300, a resolution making awards on requisition number 30873 to various municipalities and providers in a total amount of $2,758,136 for various services for the Community Social Services Program for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2016. Authorizing the county executive to execute the agreements, contracts, and all other documents required in connection with said awards and consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the providers in the amounts not to exceed and for the services as printed on the agenda, items 1 through 19.
I'll move to adopt. Councilman Jones?
Bear with me one moment.
Okay.
Yes, community social services programming. Well, the purpose of this program is to really eliminate isolation and reduce loneliness for our seniors. This program has 4 components, 4 community-based services that are delivered. They provide adult day services. They provide adult development activities, congregate meals, and transportation services. There were 19 vendors who are providing 45 different services, and there are a handful of these 19 who received a superior and above average score. And I'll give them a mention. University Settlement, the City of Parma Heights and Senior Citizens Resources, the City of Euclid, the City of Lakewood, the City of Maple Heights, East End Neighborhood House, Eliza Bryant Village, Rose Centers for Aging, Salvation Army, and Westside Community House. And all of these funded dollars are provided through our Health and Human Services levy. And I ask for my colleagues' support.
All those in favor, say aye.
Chairman.
Councilman Germano.
Could you please add my name as sponsor?
Add Councilman Germano's name. Councilman Conwell, what's your name? Councilman Harrison, what's his name?
I think my name is attached, but
Councilman Jones, his name is already on it. So, all right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2014-0301, a resolution making a Cuyahoga County 911 Consolidation Shared Services Fund Award to City of Strongsville on behalf of Southwest Emergency Dispatch Center in the amount not to exceed $234,099 for public safety answering point consolidation support for the period December 1, 2014 through December 31, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Motion has been made by Councilman Gallagher and seconded by Councilman Harrison, I believe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Councilman Gallagher?
This is just for support of physical and technical infrastructure, professional services, equipment, and upgrades that are needed for Consolidated's moving forward. We'll be having one from Parma coming soon, one from Edge, which is Beechwood, and we're going to be revisiting the Chagrin Valley relatively soon as far as their award. So thank you very much.
All right.
Resolution number 2015-0006, a resolution authorizing an extension of time to file 2015 dog license applications renewals from January 31st, 2015 to February 14th, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute all documents consistent with this resolution and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Has been made by Councilman Brown and seconded by Councilman Miller.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Greenspan.
Brought before us, I'm not going to rehash the reasons as to why we had the dog license issue. The purpose of the extension of time is because the deadline for submission of applications is July 31st, and without this extension, those who received their licenses late would not be given the requisite time as to those who did to submit their licenses. So this is a 2-week extension of the application deadline. Thank you.
Any other comments by the council? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0007, a resolution approving the appropriation of funds for year 2015 based on the Statement of Appropriation Status dated December 31st, 2014, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for free balances for grants and capital projects, encumbrances for grants and capital projects, and encumbrances for all other funds.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Greenspan and seconded by Councilman Miller. Councilman Greenspan.
Sure, Mr. Chair, this is a standard year-end resolution to clear up appropriations.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0008, a resolution authorizing agreements with various political subdivisions for participation in the Cuyahoga County Benefits Regionalization Program for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreements and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. The political subdivisions are printed on the agenda, items 6-1 through 7.
To adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Conwell and seconded by Councilman Germana. Councilman Conwell.
President Brady, this is a continuation of the benefits agreements plan. I believe there are 3 new ones that are listed. I want to say Southeastern, Village of Glen Willow. No? Lisa? I remember the Southeastern, and I think one was the Regional Income Tax Agency, and there's one other.
To the chair, to the councilwoman, you're very close. Southeastern Emergency Communications Center, City of South Euclid, and the Regional Income Tax Agency are all brand new to the program this year. The others are our renewals.
Yes, and there was no issues, many questions from committee members, but I think we ironed it out in regards to the new members that we had on the committee to be fully understood and brought up to how this originated. So this committee asked for council's approval.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, hearing none, the resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0009, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $568,197 for residential and intensive outpatient treatment services in connection with the fiscal year 2014 Drug Court Expansion Project for the period January 1, 2015 through September 29, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Councilman Gallagher and seconded by Councilman Germana. Do you have any comments on this, Councilman?
Mr. President, reasons as stated in the caption are adequate.
All right. Any comments by the council?
Just like to add my name.
Councilwoman Simon would like to add her name. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0010, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $2,380,395 for the Adult Probation Substance Abuse Residential Treatment Program for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gallagher, seconded by Councilman Germana. Any comments, Councilman?
Mr. President, again, the caption states what we're dealing with here, but this is just coordinates appropriate medical and mental health services for the client population that is targeted.
Any comments by the council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0011, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Cuyahoga County Department of Public Safety and Justice Services Division of Mediation in the amount not to exceed $852,000 for mediation and associated administrative services for the Juvenile Court Custody Mediation Project for the period February 1, 2015 through January 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Adopt.
Second.
Seconded by Gallagher and Germana. Any discussion, any comments?
The caption's pretty adequate for what we're dealing with here, Mr. President. This mostly deals with child custody and visitation matters in the juvenile court.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Councilman Gallagher's committee has had one meeting so far this year.
Resolution number 2015-0012, a resolution making awards on requisition number 31639 to various providers in a total amount not to exceed $2,230,000 for residential treatment services for the Youth and Family Community Partnership Program for the period February 1, 2015 through January 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the master contract and all other documents consistent with said awards and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the providers and in the approximate amounts as printed on the agenda, items 10.1 through 5.
Move to adopt.
Motion has been made by Councilman Gallagher and seconded by Councilman Germana. Any comments?
Mr. President, these are, again, the caption is adequate. This is for our traditional residential treatment services through the juvenile court.
Any comments? Councilman Harrison.
I would just like to be added to 12 and 13, please.
Add Councilman Harrison's name to 12 and 13. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0013, a resolution making awards on requisition number 31639 to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $1,400,000 for traditional residential treatment services for the period February 1, 2015 through January 31, 2017, authorizing the county executive to execute the master contract and all other documents consistent with said awards and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the providers and in the approximate amounts as listed on the agenda, items 11, 1 through 16.
Move to adopt. Second.
Moved by Councilman Gallagher and seconded by Councilman Germana. Councilman, any comments?
Again, the caption is adequate.
Okay. Any comments by the council? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0014, a resolution authorizing a contract with the Salvation Army in the amount not to exceed $527,499 for the past transitional housing program in connection with fiscal year 2013 Continuum of Care Homeless Assistance Grant Programs and Hearth Act for the period October 1, 2014 through September 30, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second. Moved by Councilman Jones, seconded by Councilman Brady. Councilman Jones.
And Mr. Chairman, this contract provides operational supportive services support for the past traditional housing program. This program serves homeless men that are age 18 years and older. The program has 3 points of emphasis, which are short-term housing and assisting clients with permanent housing, assisting clients with attaining employment, and also linking them to community resources. And those resources include mental health, substance abuse, education, and medical assistance. 33% of the men have secured employment when they've exited the program. Other outcomes are 33% have gained permanent housing, and last year 220 men were served through this program. And these fundings are 100% provided by HUD. And again, I ask my colleagues for support on this legislation.
Any comments by the council? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, resolution is adopted.
Resolution number 2015-0015, a resolution making an award on requisition number 31528 to Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry in the amount not to exceed $553,000 for adult guardianship services for the period January 1, 2015 through December 31, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second. Moved by Councilman Jones, seconded by Councilman Brady. Councilman Jones.
Guardianship of Adult Services, referred to as GOA, provides quality guardianship of person services to residents of our county. The Department of Senior and Adult Services identifies the needs of this services where there are no lesser forms of intervention, such as power of attorney or surrogate decision makers. The GOA, Guardianship of Adult Services, clients are indigent persons aged 18 or older, again identified by Department of Senior Adult Services, and determined to need guardianship of persons by Cuyahoga County Probate Court. Clients in need of GOA are referred by DSAS to Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, who completes an assessment. The client is then referred to Probate Court, who completes a final assessment and makes the determination regarding services. 525 ongoing clients receive GOA services a year. This is funded 64% by Health and Human Service levies, dollars, and 36% by the Cuyahoga County Probate Court. DSAS, Department of Senior Adult Services, contributes $352,000, and Probate Court provides $201,000 in contributions as well. And again, I ask for my colleagues' support.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Miller.
Lutheran Metro Ministry received a superior evaluation on their evaluation on this contract. So we just commend them for their excellent service. Thank you.
Okay. Further comment? Councilman Harrison.
Like to be added to this as well. Councilman Harrison.
Likes to be added to all the good bills. Please add Councilman Harrison to the legislation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, resolution is adopted. Finally, consideration of an ordinance for third reading adoption. We have a proposed amendment by the Law Department. Do you want to read the caption first?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Ordinance number 2014-0032, an ordinance enacting the county's Administrative Procedures Act, including establishment of the Administrative Rules Board and procedures for the publication of the Cuyahoga County Administrative Code, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
All right.
Move to adopt.
Move to approve. Are you moving the proposed amendment? And Councilman Miller has moved the amendment, and Councilman Conwell has seconded it. I'd like to have the law director give us an explanation of the amendment.
Sure. The amendment basically does two things. Number one, it uses crisper language to say exactly the same thing that we were saying before to make it clearer. But number two, it shortens the time period in which all of this goes into effect, basically speeds up the time period in which we adopt the rules. And the purpose of that, in many ways, is to avoid confusion, because the entire purpose behind this legislation is to have one place where you have all the administrative rules. And instead of having a time period where things are in limbo, we're not really sure whether they're in effect or not in effect, the board is able to meet and get everything processed. So this way, you'll have one place where we can go and find all the rules in one place.
Questions of the Law Department?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Germana and then Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Law Director, I was surprised to hear the objection to the adoption of this administrative code, that it might be in conflict with the reasoning, some reasoning in the charter for the Personal Review Board. I viewed this as having unification of standard rules and standardization, and something that we should be very proud of. Is there any reason that you think we should exclude the Personal Review Board because of the charter provision?
Absolutely not, and I cannot agree with you more that this is intended for unification, standardization. I think it's very critical to understand what this legislation is. And one, with respect to the Personnel Review Commission, I think the chairman read one provision, but there is another provision of that provision that he said, which is it gives the Personnel Review Commission the authority to establish rules as established by ordinance. So it requires the Personnel Review Commissions, when they want to adopt rules, to either come in front of County Council. What this legislation does is it basically provides an alternative, quicker way for any department or agency, if they needed to adopt rules, to go through that process. The sole determiner of how the Personnel Review Commission adopts rule is the Personnel Review Commission. They can come to the County Council directly and do it through proper legislation and through ordinance, or if they want to try to do it a quicker way, they can go through this process. This is more of a permissive ordinance, actually giving them an alternative, an additional way to adopt rules, not a prohibitive piece of legislation. And one thing that's very critical, I think, for the council to understand is without regard to this legislation, to deviate from the Ohio Revised Code, to invoke home rule power, you always have to go through the legislative process. If you remember, we've done it when we passed the pay equity law. We came before the council adopted that legislation. You don't do it administratively. When we did it on voting matters, we come before council, you do it through legislation, you don't do it administratively. On our contracting procedures, whenever we deviate from state law, we do it through council legislation. That is the proper way in which you invoke home rule to deviate from county council. So if their intent is to deviate from home rule, this legislation or no, even if they go before adopt this legislation, they can't deviate from home rule without coming before county council. So I'm not really sure what the objection is. We're honestly giving them an additional means, making it easier for them for matters on which they're not deviating from state law. If they're deviating from state law, the only way in which they could do it is coming before this council.
Councilwoman Simon.
I'm comfortable with the charter language, and also in this particular ordinance, we have section 113.02, which enables the county entities to adopt, amend, or rescind, and bring that before council so we all can take a look at what they're doing. So they have a means by which they can create their own rules, but it does have to come before us, which I think is proper.
Further questions or comments?
Yes, Councilman. To the law director, did you have a chance after Mr. Kaluka spoke to look up section 9.02? Because that was the section that he referred to, and he also stated that it was the wording that he had a problem with, and that he felt that our intention was not to take away their right to, the PRC's right to adopt changes. It just was with the wording. So did you have a chance to look at that?
I absolutely did, actually, as he was going through it. And it is that provision where it says responsibility for creation of rules, but the provision that he left out, as established by ordinance. So I think if the Personnel Review Commission wants to establish, but the charter requires them to go through the council process. So I'm not really sure how he interprets that provision as to I'm perplexed myself in the sense of the very express language of the charter requires coming before county council, or the procedure that are established by council to do that. And I'm not sure how he believes that the Personnel Review Commission on its own can adopt rules, especially if those rules deviate from state law. It doesn't matter, even if he goes before the administrative review, but the approval board, those are invalid. The only way that they could deviate from state law is by coming before county council.
Any further comments? Questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment to the resolution, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The amendment is, please add Councilman Germana's name. The amendment is passed, and now we would like to, all those in favor of the, if there are no further comments, all those in favor of the ordinance as amended, Councilman Miller.
I certainly support it, but I would like to make a few comments on the ordinance as amended.
Okay.
I'm very pleased to sponsor the administrative procedures legislation with former Executive Fitzgerald and the Law Department. It will give us an organized set of administrative rules all in one place, enhancing both operating efficiency and transparency. As such, it is a significant building block for the new government. In September of 2013, I circulated an early draft of financial policies legislation, which included a process for establishing administrative financial procedures that are too detailed to be appropriate for legislation. Director McCluth and Mike King, who then worked for the Law Department, reviewed the draft, and this proposed process became one of the conceptual antecedents for the current legislation. Director McCluth and his staff saw this concept as applying to everything the county does, not just financial policies. They also greatly improved on the procedure for approving policies, giving us the legislation we have today. This legislation is not just a structural exercise, it has considerable practical significance. As one example, our legislation, based on the findings of the disparity study, is built around this legislation in the implementation process. I expect it will also be used in the demolition fund process. I ask for your support for the ordinance, and I'd like to offer a motion to approve the substituted ordinance. Thank you.
Councilman Miller makes the motion. I'll second it. All those in favor of the amended resolution say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Miscellaneous committee reports. Any miscellaneous committee reports? I think this may be the first time we've never had a miscellaneous committee report. Miscellaneous business. Hearing none. Public comment related to the agenda.
There is no public comment.
All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Councilman Harrison moves to adjourn. Councilman Gallagher seconds. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.